Ladies and gentlemen of the interwebs, in today's episode of You Do Not Hate Them Enough, despite you hating them more than anything, and hatred being a consuming force that one should avoid at all costs, I present to you three passport-carrying globalist whore Mark J. Carney, the newly anointed PM of Canada, making you understand that no matter how much you hate them, you cannot hate them enough. Behold!
Mine is the first visit of a Canadian Prime Minister to China in nearly a decade. The world has changed much since that last visit. And I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
Do you
Mine
see the
is
face?
the first.
Let me pause this here. Do you see the face of the man behind him? I've forgotten his name right now. This is three passport-carrying globalist whore, Mark J. Carney. Transgender ideology promoting individual as well. Set that aside. Who thinks he's the white Obama. Who gets the dramatic pauses in his speeches. Who thinks that everything he says is wise beyond his years. He thinks by speaking slowly, with dramatic pauses for emphasis, it's going to make the garbage that he's spewing somehow more digestible. I will pause it periodically to add my 2 cents because there are a few things that require clarification here.
Mine is the first visit of a Canadian Prime Minister to China in nearly a decade.
Dramatic pause. You know who the last one that went was? Justin Trudeau, the other globalist whore. The other man who admired the basic dictatorship of China. That was the last prime minister to go. Yeah, Harper went, I think, in 2015 or something, 2014. Maybe it was earlier than that. Justin Trudeau, I believe, visited 3 times. Fact check me on that. That's the last prime minister of Canada to have visited China. His commie predecessor, Justin Trudeau. Okay, moving on.
The world has changed much since that last visit.
The world has changed much since that last visit. The world has changed much? Speaking in Shakespearean prose is not going to make you smarter. Mark J. Carney, three passport-carrying globalist whore. Oh yes, the world has changed much. Dramatic pause.
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
Who else wants to vomit? Who wants to vomit listening to that? What were my incredible insights to this?
Mine is the first.
We don't need to hear it a third time. Mine is the first visit of a Canadian Prime Minister, Chinadian Prime Minister. Oh, don't worry. You didn't have to go to China, Carney, because China's already come to Canada, Carney. Oh, but you knew that damn well because Canadian MPs have been infiltrated by Chinese influence. The Canadian government has been infiltrated by Indian government interests. You got, enjoy that tweet. Watch that video over and over again. Canada has been taken over. Property, mineral rights, sold out to China. Government officials. How many are we at? 12 MPs that have either wittingly or unwittingly become agents of the Chinese Communist Party? Well, you don't need to go to China, Carney. Just zoom over, but it's nice. It's nice that you're flying over there anyhow. Real good for the environment. Canada's already been taken over. The new world order. Remember, people. Agenda 2030, conspiracy theory. WEF, you will own nothing and be happy. Conspiracy theory. Oh yeah, what's that? No, it's real and it's good. The ever-moving goalposts of conspiracy theories. The celebration parallax. It's not happening, but it's a good thing that it is. The new world order. Not an 80s band that many of us who grew through that era loved. A conspiracy theory about globalist interests usurping the power of individual nations. What did Prime Minister Carney mean when he said new world order? Oh, don't worry, because he was asked to clarify what he meant when he said new world order. And this was his clarification. Get ready for this. I'll read you the tweet. Listen to it very carefully. Listen for the buzzwords in this. They are buzzwords for tyranny. They are buzzwords for communism. But don't worry, they already told you that. Just none of us were listening back in 2015. Listen to everything he says. Payment regulations, environmental stuff. He's going to use fancy words. They're not so fancy. Architecture, you dumb jackass, is not a fancy word. What fancy words are cloaking your verbal diarrhea in fancy words. Listen to this. What did you mean when you said new world order? Your strategic partnership with the Chinese Communist Party that spies on foreign nations, that has human rights abuses in its own country, that has copyright and trademark infringement as their primary source of income. What did you mean by that?
Yesterday, when you met with Premier Lee, one of the things you said in the public remarks was this partnership, Canada and China, this new partnership sets us up well for the new world order. What did you mean by that? What is the new world order?
Well, good question. But what he said was new world order. Oh, he's a superstar. He thinks he's Noel Gallagher. He thinks he's the lead singer of Oasis. This scumbag thinks he's a celebrity rock star. Sorry, I'm getting in the way of the beautiful answer. What did you mean by the new world order?
Well, it's a great question, Brian, because I think the world is still determining what that order is going to be. And let's be clear.
Well, let me just pause. So the world is still determining what you meant by new world order. No, I didn't ask what the world means and understands by new world. What did you mean by new world order? Well, it's a good question because I don't really even know what it means. So when I said it, thinking it sounded smart and powerful and charismatic and Obama-esque with my pauses, I didn't actually know what I meant when I said new world order because it doesn't actually exist yet in my mind. Horse crap. Partnership with the Chinese Communist Party after they've infiltrated your government, after Canadians' involvement in the COVID outbreak, 2 Chinese scientists disappearing to Wuhan, look it up, training Chinese soldiers on Canadian soil for wintertime combat, look it up. Oh, don't worry, they're not doing it anymore.
What we're talking about first and foremost, which is what is going to govern global trade? What is the role of the WTO going to be? How important are bilateral deals such as the one we're developing, plurilateral deals, if I can use that term, Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Just throw out plurilateral deals, Trans-Pacific Partner. Let me just throw out a bunch of buzzwords to make it sound like I know what the F I'm talking about.
Potential linkages between Trans-Pacific Partnership and the EU. Where is financial regulation, payment system regulation going to fit into that?
Financial system regulation, payment system regulations. Are we talking about central digital banking? Is that what we're talking about right now? Or are you just going to go full China and just, freeze bank accounts again? Like Chrystia Freeland, who now is an advisor to Volodymyr Zelensky after siphoning hundreds of millions of Canadian taxpayer dollars out to that proxy war. These people are flipping criminals. I don't know what he means by it. But it's fancy talk. It's fancy words that the lowly plebs like myself don't understand.
All of these aspects, use fancy words like the architecture, the multilateral system.
Architecture is not a fancy word, you buffoon. What you're trying to do is just baffle bullshit for your dumb followers. Elbows up, people. I think it's elbows up now. Oh, yes, Mr. Xi Jinping, elbows up. We are your subservient bilateral infrastructure architectural partners. I don't know why I have a Japanese accent there. Suspend disbelief, people.
That has been developing these is being eroded, to use a polite term, undercut, use another term. So the question is, what gets built in that place? How much of a patchwork is it? How much is it just on a bilateral basis? Or where do like-minded countries in certain areas? So like-minded countries, just to be clear, doesn't mean you agree on everything.
Oh, yeah. Canada's a like-minded country with China right now. I mean, it's been a like-minded country with China since Justin Trudeau came in venting as to how much he loved the basic dictatorship of China. It's official, people. You have a bilateral agreement with a country and a prime minister saying that these are like-minded countries. Yeah. I mean, I guess from the Canadian perspective, human rights abuses, who gives a crap? Lock down a population, force them to take an experimental jab. I guess they have something in common with China after all. They would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for those meddling kids.
Aspects, for example, on digital trade or agricultural trade.
Digital trade.
Climate finance is another area.
Climate finance. Can you imagine? First of all, I don't even know what he means by it, but I presume I sort of understand what he means by it. He's talking about climate issues with the number one polluter on Earth, to which we have outsourced our pollution by crippling the Canadian economy and energy resources. This mother effer is selling Canada to China at wholesale prices, arguably not even selling it, giving it away for his seat at the altar of the globalist agenda.
To move into areas of geostrategy, geosecurity, you will have different coalitions that are formed. So what this partnership does is in areas, for example, of clean energy, conventional energy, agriculture, as we were just talking about, and financial services, which we've talked less about.
Oh, yeah. Financial services. I'm curious to know what that means, what that partnership with China is going to look like. Environmental issues with China. Holy crap. If this guy couldn't go, I mean, he would speak for 50% less time.
But the evolution of the global financial system, the role of the renminbi over time, the evolution of cross-border payments. I know it all sounds very dry, except for your organization, which I think takes an interest in it. These are important elements of how the system is going to work. And look, the expectation is that rather than these being developed necessarily through the IMF, WTO, and other multilateral organizations, it is going to be coalitions that develop them not for the world, but for subsectors of the world.
What you just said is the most insanely idiotic thing I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent answer did you come anywhere near anything that can be resembled a rational thought. I award you no points, 3 passport-carrying Mark J. globalist whore Carney. No points, and may God have mercy on your soul. It makes no sense. It means nothing. It's a barrage of verbal diarrhea, punctuated with and what it basically is shorthand for is Canada is sleeping with the devil right now. That's right. I called the Chinese Communist Party the devil of Western interests, the devil of Canadian interests, and you have Mark J. Carney cozying up, dancing with the devil as if the devil doesn't dance back with you. Bilateral agreements because he's angry at Trump and, thinks he's going to get a better deal with China through a bilateral agreement. Now, for those of you who don't know, like the video's gone viral, and then some people don't really know what the substance is of what the hell he's talking about. Canada has struck a deal with China to reduce tariffs on EVs, to reduce tariffs from China on canola oil, lobster, as if, I don't know what the respective purchase power is of these two countries into their respective markets, but I do know that it pales in comparison to the US. Canada to allow Chinese EV imports at 6.1% tariff, Carney says Canada expects China to lower canola tariff. Canada welcomes further Chinese investment. What could possibly go wrong? This is the pith and substance of the deal. Canada-China struck an initial trade deal that will slash tariffs on electric vehicles and canola. You're going to see a lot more Chinese EVs driving around Canada. Just I guess when they burst into flames in winter, it'll be a cheap way to keep warm. Prime Minister Marty Kark said on Friday, both nations promised to tear down trade barriers while forging new strategic ties. Coming from Reuters. The first Canadian Prime Minister to visit China since 2017. Oh, because the last one was another liberal commie scumbag, Justin Trudeau. Don't say that, though. Don't mention it. Reuters. Carney is seeking to rebuild ties with the country's second largest trading partner after the U.S. What are those respective differentials? You can put it in the chat if you have the answer right now. It's substantial. Oh, it's its second largest. Pales in comparison to America. Don't try to make friends with the democracy. Oh no, Trump's America is not a democracy. Xi Jinping's Communist Party is a trustworthy partner. So they're reducing tariffs, 49,000 Chinese electric vehicles at a tariff of 6.1%, yada, yada, yada. Carney said after talks with Chinese leaders, including President Xi Jinping, he did not specify a time period. That compares with the 100% tariff on the Chinese electric vehicles imposed by the governor, yada, yada, yada. Okay. This is a return to levels prior to recent trade frictions, but under an agreement that promises much more for Canadians, Carney told reporters. Trudeau justified his tariff on the grounds that there was an unfair global market edge for Chinese manufacturers betting from state subsidies, a scenario that threatened domestic producers. Oh yeah, also just that minor thing called intellectual property theft and slave labor. Set aside those two things. You get 49,000 Chinese-made EVs. Have fun driving those around. To hell with Tesla. Hey, I bought my Chinese EV after Elon went crazy, right? Elbows up, morons. And it gets even worse if you can possibly imagine it. So you have the tariffs. They've come to an agreement. It's beautiful. Did you also hear, to add insult to injury, to just be stupider than you can possibly ever imagine? What did they discuss in their meeting? This is from MSN. There is much alignment between Canada, China on Greenland sovereignty. Carney. Oh, they talked about Greenland, did they? Oh, what did they say about that? What did Carney say to the Chinese Communist Party leader about Donald Trump's aspirations, discussions of acquiring Greenland for reasons of hemispheric national security? Prime Minister Mark Carney said Friday he found much alignment between his views on Greenland's sovereignty and those of Chinese President Xi Jinping in response to US President Donald Trump's threats against the territory. Quote, I had discussions with President Xi, he identifies as Xi, about the situation in Greenland, about our sovereignty in the Arctic, about the sovereignty of the people of Greenland and people of Denmark, and I found much alignment of views in that regard, Carney said at a press conference in Beijing. Carney said Canada's position is that Greenland, a semi-autonomous territory of Denmark, should determine its own future. Noting that Denmark is a NATO ally, Carney said, quote, our full partnership stands with our obligations under Article 5, Article 2 of NATO stand, and we stand full square behind those. What are those, you might remember? From such international proxy wars as Ukraine versus Russia? Oh, remember when the Polish soldiers, the Polish farmers got bombed, and then Zelensky was saying, this is an attack on a NATO member. Article 5, World War III, haha, hooray. Article 5 is the Alliance's collective defense agreement, which states that an attack on one member constitutes an attack on all. It has only been invoked once in NATO's 75-year history by the U.S. after the 9/11 attacks. Trump insists the U.S. needs control of Greenland for national security reasons and has said he would take it over whether they like it or not. And so what does totally not a threat to American national security do? He goes and reassures China that Canada would invoke Article 5 of NATO to defend against American aggression on Greenland. This is what you call sleeping with the enemy, people. This is what you call dancing with the devil, as if it doesn't dance right back with you. And this is exactly why there are U.S. intelligence authorities who refuse to have discussions about matters of national security with Canadian authorities because they are untrustworthy and they have been infiltrated by China. China, this man, Mark J. Carney, the longest unsecured border, I don't know if it's on Earth, but it's a freaking long, non-militarized border with America, is sitting there talking with Xi Jinping about invoking Article 5 should America, in Carney's view, engage in unauthorized aggression on a NATO member, Denmark, via Greenland. This is a national security threat to these United States of America. Canada has already been infiltrated by China and right now is actively participating, collaborating, and facilitating Chinese influence in the Northern Hemisphere. You know, the same reason that Trump, whether you like it or not, arguably went in and replaced Maduro, tried to, not do regime change, but certainly keep out Chinese influence in the Western Hemisphere. You got Carney boasting about it on television. By the way, it's a risky thing because after all, this is Tamara Ugolini from Rebel News pointing out, China's known for a couple of things. Human rights abuses, desecrating the globe through emissions, if that's what you believe are the ultimate cause of climate crisis, copyright infringement and copyright and intellectual property theft, and spying. So much so that the journalists who went to China had to talk about getting burner phones because of the risk of Chinese spying through their electronic devices. And look at Mélanie Joly. I forget what her position is in the government right now. I'll find it as we're going playing this clip. Mélanie Joly. By the way, the irony is that Joly, her last name in French, means pretty. And I don't say this because I find her pretty, but this is what happens when someone who's grossly incompetent gets into positions of power. Once you get into the government, you fail upwards. This is a person who is grotesquely incompetent to even have a position in a government, let alone the position of authority that she has. Listen to this.
We're using burner phones for the first time when we covered this because China spies on journalists and businessmen. China intercepts communications. Is China really the right kind of partner for Canadian industry?
Listen, we've been clear-eyed. We're eyes wide open.
Eyes wide open. What
we
the hell
know
does
this.
that even...
But there's been investments by Canadian companies.
Pause. What the hell does that mean? We have been clear-eyed. She's French. That's why she got a bit of a French accent. We have been clear-eyed, eyes wide open. First of all, your eyes look freaking glazed, Melanie. Her position, by the way, Minister of Industry and Minister responsible for Canada Economic Development for Quebec regions. Oh, this might have been the old one. Serving as a member of Parliament for Ahuntsic-Cartierville Liberal Party. She previously held significant roles like Minister of Foreign Affairs and Minister of Canadian Heritage before her current appointment. Minister of Industry. We are eyes wide open, eyes wide clear. We understand everything.
Businessmen. China intercepts communications. Is China really the right kind of partner for Canadian industry?
Listen, we've been clear-eyed. We're eyes wide open.
Eyes wide open.
We know this. But there's been...
We know that China spies. But... Look, I know there's a likelihood that you might get beaten to death, but I think I'm going to go out at 3 a.m, fraternizing with gang members. But
investments by Canadian companies for years here. Tomorrow, I'm meeting with Magna. Magna, one of the biggest auto parts companies in the world. They have 30,000 people working here. We're meeting with Manulife. We're meeting with BMO. These companies have been in China for years.
They have. And they've been responsible for money laundering of Chinese money through Canada. Holy shit, you're describing the problem, not the solution. You're describing your corruption. This is like that scene from The Big Short. Why are they confessing? They're not confessing, they're bragging. Best line of the movie, by the way.
Now, obviously, we're having these conversations with the Chinese government. If they're going to invest in our country, they need to make sure that our companies are able to invest and have access to stability and have access to a form of certainty. And so that's what we're working on. When we engage with China and we engage with businesses like Tim and I have been doing, we put everything on the table to address these risks. And that's why this visit is so important, and it's been a focus of the Prime Minister.
By the way, you brain dead idiot. The question was, what are you going to do about the real risks of spying and surveillance from the Chinese Communist Party? Oh, that's why this visit is important. Let me speak for a minute and not answer any of your questions. Thank you for the question. Moving on. That's what's going on in Canada. It's a big flipping problem, whether you understand that it is or not.